Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you happen to be, anywhere on planet Earth. This is Scott Churchson, J.D. Walker, Obie Spencer, and Mr. Rob Stats, and this is the Sports Den. And welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Kindly remember to rate and download the Zingo TV app. The app is free. The app is available on the store iOS and Android devices. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Gentlemen, how are the four of you today?
I'm awesome. Looking forward to a good day on the show. Let's see what we got going on today. I can't wait to hear your rants.
Yeah, I've got a few things I'm going to go into today. JD, I think you've got a few of your own as well.
Yep.
JD, why don't we start this off? It is a 1-2 combination of which of the two New York football teams is the worst team. While you're talking about that, I'm going to basically send a link over to show something which shows the level of ineptitude in the tri-state area when it comes to our sports teams. But if you want, talk a little Jets in the meantime.
Well, Zach Wilson's home debut on Sunday ended with rains of boos from the Jets faithful at MetLife Stadium. So, I mean, playing against the Patriots, credit to the defense for them not losing that game by 40 the way that they probably should have. But Wilson did not look like he played like absolute garbage. But Bill Belichick owns rookie quarterbacks, as they showed graphics during the game several times for that. There really isn't much to say. It's looking like another season going south real quick. 18 wins each for the Jets and the Giants since the start of the 2017 season, according to the factoid you posted the other day, Scott.
We're bringing that factoid back up again because that's going to be a big high point here to discuss this.
Yeah, so tied for the worst in the league. I actually have more to say about the Giants because what can you even say about the Jets anymore?
Well, let's talk the Giants. As I wrote an article in La Portada the other day, I have a halcyon days of the 1980s Giants team. When I was a 10-year-old kid, my parents told me that they had a surprise for me after dinner once, and they were going to actually, they just told me to get the shirt out of the dryer. And can we scroll that up just a little tiny? Can we zoom in on that a tick? Is that possible? If we can't, we'll just let it go. No sweat. But I remember this because Jim Burt, who lived in our town, the offensive lineman for the Giants, he organized an event that took place at the Midland Park 7-Eleven. And I had no idea what was happening. I got there, and everybody was there. LT was there. Phil Simms was there. Bavaro, McConkey, Sean Landetta, everybody when I was a 10-year-old kid. And I was hooked on this team so immaculately. And this was before they won the Super Bowl. And I remember going in there. I had my LT jersey. I was all excited, all fired up. And I think about that now. When it comes to a football team that has won 18 games since the start of 2017. Is there any way we can zoom that in a little bit? If you go to the three buttons on the top right, you can go actually and go to zoom and then zoom it in a tick that way. There you go. Brilliant. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Does that work? Yeah. One more for Jesus. All right. Well, if you look at that right there, that's perfect. Thank you, Rebecca. You're awesome. I appreciate it. The New York Giants and the New York Jets share an ignominious title as being the worst team since 2017. Credit in this case to StatMuse for bringing this. If you look further and if you started digging deep, you'll find that the New York Jets have had the least amount of points scored on average since 2017. The Giants are fourth worst. The Giants are eighth worst in giving up points. The Jets are fourth worst. The only reason on this is the reason that the Giants are worse than the Jets is because the Jets won the tiebreaker. In 2019, the Jets won 34-27, which gives them the side-by-side advantage over the Jets as not being the worst team in the NFL or in New York. I'm done. I'm burned out. After that meltdown loss, after the Darius Slayton drop pass, guaranteed touchdown, after a missed field goal, turned false start, turned made field goal against a division rival, a game you should have won. I am absolutely just exhausted with this team. It crushes me to know what I remembered as a child, and even in my mid-30s with the Eli Manning and also for a while Michael Strahan, to see those teams and see this team become an absolute unbridled laughingstock of what it is. You know, where you can't even win a division, where you have to scrape out a 7-9 record. I'm done. I'm burned out. I mean, they're playing, you know, the Falcons on Sunday at home. I can't be confident they're going to win this. You know, I mean, Daniel Jones is showing signs of greatness. He's showing signs of failure. You know, they're showing easy, stupid mistakes that they should not be making and losing winnable games. You saw what happened with Tampa Bay against Dallas. They had 4 turnovers, but good teams find ways to win, and Tampa was able to do that. Credit to Dallas for taking as far as they did. But if you're a team that gives up four turnovers in a game and you still win, you're something special. The Giants give up 1 turnover, and they're pretty much guaranteed a loss. And I'm burned out.
I want to defend Darius Slayton first, because as someone who played wide receiver, he became the scapegoat for what was not a good throw. And I'll compare it to this.
It was catchable.
What was more catchable?
Barely, not by much.
What was more catchable, Zach Wilson's second interception to Corey Davis that went through his hands, or the pass that Darius Slayton dropped, or allegedly dropped? As a receiver, if you look at that, it's on his farthest outside hand, fully extended. Mm-hmm. If you want to criticize him for not laying out for it, yes, 100%.
That's what I'm saying.
But that still doesn't make it. If he lays out for that and doesn't drop it, then it's like, oh, you know, is Daniel Jones going to get criticized for overthrowing him? Because that's really what it came down to, is he was wide open and Jones could have made a better throw. And everybody instantly, because Joe Buck was like, oh, he dropped it. And even I think Troy was on there going, it's not a great throw. Like, it wasn't spot on, and he was wide open. Like,
Troy was also like, that's a catchable ball anyway.
Yeah, but if he lays out for it, like, it wasn't exactly clear cut. You know, like I said, if he gets 2 hands on it, I'm like, okay, maybe he should have caught it. But he had one hand, his farthest hand, arm fully extended off his fingertips. So it's not the most it's catchable, but it's not like it's. I felt bad because he instantly got criticized for it, and I was like, man, people criticizing him probably couldn't catch a ball that was thrown right at their chest. Like,
this is one of those things, right, where I think we get spoiled by what is catchable by the upper tier echelon of wide receivers. And we don't. Darius Slayton isn't supposed to be that guy. He's supposed to be a good wide receiver, an NFL wide receiver. He might have a 10-year career, but he's not the guy. He's not the guy who's supposed to catch that ball. That guy was traded away and is now injured and can't stay on the field in Cleveland. But that's not who Darius Slayton is. That ball was thrown out of the frame, and like you say, if Slayton catches that pass, we all look at maybe Daniel is coming around. But the reality is Slayton saved his ass. This is, just like Buncher was wrong when she said, my husband can't catch all the balls. I feel Slayton's getting a really rough rap here on the pass that, some receivers could catch, but
not everybody.
Not everyone. Randy Moss is not walking through that door.
Keyshawn Johnson had a good point. He said one of the worst problems that happens in a case like that is you have so much time available. You're not working off of instinct. You have to have a premeditated thought in that moment, where that ball is coming, you're wide open. You don't have to worry about anything but catching the ball. And in the process, in some ways, you get the yips because you have so much time to focus. It was the same problem if you go back 20 years. Chuck Knobloch had it second. If it was a split-second move, he was fine. But if it was a premeditated throw to first, he'd throw it into the stands and hit Keith Oldman's mother in the head with it.
Well, also, like you were saying with that, too, is he knows he's open. He knows it's a blown coverage, but now as you're running downfield, like I've been in that situation. I had a QB who wasn't the most accurate in high school, and I'm running. In that moment, I'm like, do I have to lay out for this? Like, you're trying to gauge it, and you're like, oh, it's not stopping. It's not slowing up. Like, the ball's still going. I'm still going. And now like you said, you're thinking about it, but now you're like, do I have to lay out? Like, I don't want to lay out and drop the ball if I can just catch it. And it's a whole, there's so much happens in such little time, but I feel like it could have, like Obi said, he's not ODB or OBJ, whatever. ODB is a rapper from Wu-Tang Clan. He's not Odell.
He's not either
Like,
one of those guys.
he's not catching that ball with one hand. And I think he became kind of this scapegoat for it. And like, I know it's something Obi brings up a lot with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And like Stephon Diggs makes these great, crazy catches. And everybody's like, oh, Josh Allen looks great. And it's like, no, man, like he's got good receivers who make up for their mistakes. And to go back kind of like what I agree with what JD said about just the Jets in general. I mean, and I posted on social media, that game could have looked like the Miami game in a heartbeat. Like it could have been 35-0. Salah's the real deal on the defensive side of the ball. And he doesn't have the talent that he had in San Francisco. I mean, Belichick plays his game. He plays chess. He's like, I'm going to do just enough to win, but they went into the half down 10. They could have been down 24 easily.
Yes.
And the Giant game is, like I said, I really thought they were going to pull it out because one, it was Washington. DJ hadn't lost to Washington in his career. And was it a meltdown? Yeah, but Washington had like a mini meltdown before that because it's like, dude, just run the clock. Like Riverboat Ron gambles sometimes, and sometimes he loses money, and there was no reason to be throwing the ball in that situation. Just run the clock, make the Giants use their timeouts, and make them beat you on offense. But yeah, this week against Atlanta, if they don't win this week, man, they're looking at an 0-7, possibly 0-8 start straight up.
Now, I'll
There
say this.
was a graphic they showed during the Jets game where they had, I believe it was September records for both teams, for both the Giants and the Jets for the last 4 years. And I think there was one combined win in September for both teams. And there's some historical perspective here. I mean, Scott, as you said that you grew up in the heyday of the Giants teams of the 80s. You know, myself being a Jets fan, I have no such history to fall back on. So I guess I'm a little dead inside, you know, in that regard. You know, Rob, you know how that is with the Dolphins. So so you need to realize that there was not a single playoff game involving a New York football team for 12 years, for the entire decade of the 1970s. After the Jets AFL division playoff loss after the 69 season, there was not a single playoff game for either team until they both made the playoffs in 81. There was an 18-year playoff drought for the Giants. And that is not looked to enough because the Giants have won 4 Super Bowls, you know, in the past 35 years. But they have some really bad history too. And now John Mara is becoming his father. I don't mean Wellington Mara, the beloved patriarch of the Giants. I mean the Wellington Mara who was hung in effigy during protests in the Meadowlands parking lot in the 70s when people were setting their tickets on fire. The one who, because of the family dispute with his nephew and co-owner, where they weren't even speaking, you know, to the point where Commissioner Rozelle got involved and hired George and pushed them to hire George Young as their first true general manager and the go-between between the two owners, and the rest is history after that. But we are back to the bad old days of the 70s for both teams, and because the Jets are losing with more flair, if you will, and and LOL Jets is an easy tagline and well-deserved tagline because of how dumb they are. If the Jets were doing better, then there would be more attention on how bad the Giants are. The Giants and Mara and the whole organization, Gettleman, they all are getting a pass because they happen to share a town. They share a stadium with a team that is even worse. I mean, while they have the technical tiebreaker in this chart, you know, the Jets don't have the good history to fall back on, and the Giants can still say, hey, we've won 4 Super Bowls. Yes, but you've won only 18 games in the last 4 years. So this historical perspective of the bad old days of the Giants is where we're at right now. And just much like the 70s, they're stuck in the past, where just the way they do business, the way that the Giants evaluate players, look through the Giants webpage, the front office and pro personnel directors, look how many people have the Mara and Tisch names. It's a family business. The NFL should not be run like a family business in 2021. And yes, there are positive qualities to that, but there are so many people who work within the Giants organization, and part of the Giants family, in some cases, literally part of the owners' families, or other people like Gettleman, where they've spent most of their professional lives working for the Giants organization. So they don't have, so it's sort of a hive mind where everybody's stuck in their ways and stuck in the old Giants ways, which clearly are not working anymore. And they're not getting hammered as much as they should be because they happen to share a town with a team that is even worse and gets more negative attention.
And largely,
everything you say is exactly right. And they built this team not to compete on the back page, not on the field. Look, this is since when he put since 2017. It's since a running back went number 2 overall. That's when it sits. And look, I think when Scott, you first posted this, I mentioned, and they passed. That's when they passed on Quentin Nelson. Both teams, at least the Jets went with the quarterback who was highly touted and looks good right now. Now that he's out of the Jets, in terms of what's happened on the field, the final production, but all of these backs that were picked since Barkley have shown that they're not lasting any longer. Zeke is now not the number 1 back in his team. Barkley not playing well. 2 years ago was the year of the running back, where we had CEH going in the first round, supposed to be the next big thing. It's just not happening. Everyone's saying don't pick running backs. They grabbed the running back way too early, but they won the back page. I remember that pick happened in under like 2 minutes, it felt like, at the draft. It was second pick. They didn't spend time negotiating with anybody, and they're here now, which goes to what you're saying, JD. I'm not worried about being a family business, because if that family was named Shanahan, I'd say they'd be making the playoffs, just not winning anything. Or there are names.
I'll
if that
take it right now.
What?
I'll take it right now.
Right. Or I'll take a Harbaugh one family right now. You know what I mean? Like here's that family's running it wrong.
The Giants struggle though. The Giants, historically speaking, have always been one of those draft from within, build from within organizations. Now, I went back. You talked about the days in the 1970s, and I was barely old enough to remember this. But if you go back to 1979, do you know how many starting quarterbacks they signed versus drafted?
The Giants signed versus drafted?
Signed as a starting quarterback.
1? Kerry Collins?
Kerry Collins.
Yeah, exactly. I know I remember them constantly drafting. Like they drafted, was it Danny Cannell?
It was Phil Simms, and then basically you had Dave Brown, Danny Cannell, Ken Graham, all that entourage, and then they had Kerry Collins, fine, and then went to Eli, fine, that worked out okay, and then Daniel Jones. They have always gone from drafting.
I was going to say technically 2 because Kurt Warner did take over as he came in as a starter. Yeah, I was a good call, Obi. I was like, wait, didn't Warner squeeze in there?
He did. Yeah, Warner did start 9 games. It's correct on that.
Wait, I mean, it shows that they're drafting.
Dave Brown or sign him? I don't remember.
What's that?
Dave Brown. Did they draft or sign him?
They drafted Dave Brown. Yeah, and then that was during that era where they bounced between Brown, Cannell, Ken Graham, one after every
Tommy
game.
Maddox, I think, was there for a bit. He followed.
With Dan Reeves.
Well, who was the last quarterback to win on a team he wasn't drafted for to win the Super Bowl?
Tom Brady. Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady wasn't drafted by. Okay, right. Yeah, right. And in all the years he was on the team, he was drafted by.
And then Peyton Manning with the Broncos.
Okay, so we're talking 2 of the best ever when they moved. We're talking like when the Jets took their stab with Brett Favre.
I mean,
that seems like that is how you win. Maybe Warner was a quarterback who came in young and wasn't established and won without being drafted first over in St. Louis.
Warner had already, that would be. Well, the Rams drafted Warner.
Okay.
Or was he was either drafted or he was signed as an undrafted free agent after playing in the Arena League first.
And then Warner actually took the Cardinals to the Super Bowl anyway.
Yes.
So
after the Giants thought he was washed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I was always happy that he rebuilt his career over in Arizona like that. But it shows a lot of concern because there's, like I said, it's drafting, it's not signing. I mean, if Daniel Jones washes out this year and somehow, Gettleman gets the axe and they decide to move on, do they draft? Do they sign? I mean, there's a plethora of potential starting options that are going to be available through free agency this year. Tyrod Taylor, Nick Foles, I think, is in there, a few others as well. That could at least be a decent placeholder and somebody who's established as opposed to starting from scratch again. The problem with the Giants is they repeatedly start from scratch.
Yeah, I'm going to back him on that play. I'm going to say that if you're bad, you find somebody in the draft. Now, maybe I'm not saying that I do think that this strategy that a lot of teams are using of just everyone rushing to the top of the draft and grabbing the quarterback isn't the best play. Build some things around them, but whether it's Roethlisberger at the 11 or Wilson in the 4th, there are guys to be found later. Brady in the 7th. That if there's some structure around them, they can be good. What's going on in Denver? Just look what Bridgewater's doing. Bridgewater has proven to be a professional quarterback. He went on a team that had a ton of weapons there, a decent defense. They're 2-0. I don't know how far they're going to go. But, Winston won one game. Winston is Winstoning. Great game, bad game. If he gets 10 great games, they're in the playoffs. So, that's the gamble you're making. So, yeah, but you have to establish something else there. So I'm not saying, like, the Jets grabbing Darnold because he was kind of a hot name or Wilson because he was kind of a hot name when it is hard to get that quarterback right. The stats are pretty dismal. Okay. But I'm still not sure that saying try to sign a guy is the right move unless you're close to a 7 or 8 win team already, except for your quarterback.
Mm-hmm. And also the amount of money that it would now take to sign a free agent quarterback, what's the open market rate for a decent starting quarterback? $40 million a year.
I'll say the same thing I said last year.
And good quarterbacks do not hit free agency. For the Giants or any other team to be able to sign them. You draft and hold on to them. And if you get into something where you have a team that you're either unsure of extending them, you can franchise them for a few years, like Washington did with Kirk Cousins. Or you can trade for a quarterback. As you saw so many quarterbacks switch teams this past offseason. They would need to give up handsomely to do so. They can the Giants give up a ton of draft picks and trade for somebody? Possibly. Is that the best thing to do when you have an entire offense and defense full of holes to do? No, it's not. So, unfortunately, I personally haven't been that impressed with Daniel Jones. I think he's a little better than Darnold with the Jets, but not by much. And if you want to extend these quarterbacks, you need to give them a lot of money. And Daniel Jones, as of now, has not shown he's worth it. I think that if this season continues down this path, that the Giants are probably going back to the draft for a new quarterback, just like the Jets did this year. And the financial calculus makes it financially prudent to do so. Of paying for rookie salary versus paying, 20, 30, 40 million a year for an established veteran.
I'm just tired. Yeah. And listen, you get it. I know. Miami is on the way up. They lost bad the other day, but Miami's got a plausible chance of making the playoffs. Philly has a plausible chance of making the playoffs.
And Tua's here again.
You're fine.
Tua is Italian, for those of you who didn't know, because he's fragile.
Yeah, the day-to-day with a rib injury, I just think of the broken ribs, and it's like the amount of times you've watched a football game where the announcer is talking about how tough the quarterback is because he took a shot and was wearing a flak jacket with a broken rib. Quarterbacks are not day-to-day with a broken rib. They just play. That's what they do. And
Or it's a bruised rib because they said the X-rays were negative, so he's just got bruised ribs. It's like play with it then. Like if it was broken, like we've seen guys go out and play with broken ribs, and it's like, okay, bro, like.
Look, say what you want about Romo. He had a stint there 4 or 5 games, and he was always a little fragile. But where he was like, Romo's playing with a broken rib, and that might have been the year they won 13 and got to the playoffs with Owens. I'm not positive. Somebody can certainly correct me, but he had a great run with the broken ribs. So that's a thing we see quarterbacks do. So I'm worried that he's day-to-day with hurt ribs. A lot of worry. And I'm a Tua fan, and that really scares me.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of – no, he's not. He's a reliable backup, and it was funny because it was like the perfect storm to start the Deshaun Watson rumors again, and they were like, yeah, I'm like, he ain't going anywhere. Like, dude, if he ain't playing on Thursday night in Houston, he ain't going anywhere, man. They're just sitting on him like, we'll leave you here, whatever. But that becomes another option for the Giants. Like you said, do you have the draft capital? Do you want to waste draft capital on a guy like Watson? I looked at the Giants depth chart yesterday.
Negative press that comes with bringing in a player.
A potential, a guy with the accusations. I think that's another reason that they're – I feel like Houston knows something.
Years ago. Different but similar.
But I feel like with the Watson thing too, I think Houston knows things that the media probably doesn't know, and there's a reason they're sitting on him. They're like, we're not even going to go down that road and have this blow up in our face. But the Giants' biggest problem too right now is they've got 3 backup offensive linemen. Like, go look at their depth chart on ESPN.com, and Matt Pert is the backup for 3 different positions. And then there's 2 other guys that they got. And you got a rookie, not a rookie quarterback, but a young quarterback. Saquon was not the right choice that year. I said it. That's not even hindsight, man. I was one of the people who was like, everybody's like, we got to get this kid. Nope.
Galladay's already flipped off.
Running back.
Joe Judge is
for a good team.
Joe Judge is on a short leash. He's on his way out. Even now, he's like, Kenny wasn't yelling at anybody on the sideline. Like, bro, we watching it. He's screaming at him, and it's like, yeah, I think he's regretting taking that paycheck. He's like, man, I should have just went somewhere else and played. But week 2 in the NFL overall was interesting. Like Obi said, Jameis going to Jameis, and Tampa Bay fans were probably laughing at New Orleans fans going, oh, now you know what we felt like for 4 years, like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns one game and then 4 interceptions the next, or like, and 12 points. So, but it's early in the NFL season in general. So we're going to see what happens with week 2 is always interesting because the hype trains get derailed quick for a lot of teams. And I just said to somebody yesterday, I go, this season is like a game of Among Us. Every team is suspect. Every team is sus. Aside from Tampa Bay, who's been the most consistent over 2 weeks, nobody looks invincible. Even watching that Kansas City-Baltimore game, I'm like, Kansas City's in trouble, man. Like, you could tell they were struggling to move the ball on the ground. And I'm like, they're like a turnover away. They're like a turnover away from it backfiring. And Kansas and even Baltimore. I kept looking at Baltimore saying they're in the same boat Houston was in last year with that tough early schedule, and Harbaugh played it like it was week 17. He's like, you want to go for it? Because I think he's looking at it going, I can't start off 0-2. I start off 0-2 and I still got the Steelers twice. I still got the Browns twice and whoever else, in conference, out of conference, man. He's like, you can't go into week, you can't go down 0-2 and be a contender. Like, you're digging yourself, and Houston never dug themselves out of that hole last year.
So I think
Blue and Orange have been ejected from Among Us. Blue and Green, rather.
Blue and Green, yeah. Blue and Green are on their way out.
Blue and Green have been ejected. They are the imposters, according to that.
I think, speaking of I'm going to throw out a team who I don't think has been an imposter yet this season. They have a huge matchup this week. The Buccaneers and the Rams, I think, is look, Stratford is Stratford, and it's let's see who he is now that he's got a team and a coach and everything else against those Bucs. And look, they can lose, and I'd still say they look good if we get a game like we had on Monday night. If we get a 45-38 type game, and then just flip a coin, what happens? That's a team I definitely enjoy. It looks like we really hit big on this Among Us. We're gonna have to.
I know, yeah.
Maybe.
But the Bucs and the Rams, and even McVay was saying about Stafford, he's like, and I knew this from following when I was in LA at the time too, when Goff was out there and they were doing really well that one year, the year they went to the Super Bowl. They said McVay was constantly on the headset with Goff, and he was constantly, basically McVay, it was like he was playing Madden. And McVay said with Stafford, he doesn't have to be in his ear. He's like, here's the play. Okay. And he's like, he knows Stafford's walking to the line already knowing what to look for, what the play is. And McVay said, he's like, I have a quarterback now. I don't have a student anymore. And he's like, it's not that I didn't want a student, but I got to a point where I didn't need a student anymore. I needed a quarterback. And he kind of, a little bit of shade at Goff that, like, you know, you never really developed into the guy I needed you to be. But I picked up Stafford on my fantasy team as my backup to Mahomes. And I'm like, man, if Mahomes goes down, I'm feeling good because he's got all these Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Tyler. And even if you're Tyler Higbee, oh my God, you got a quarterback who absolutely loves tight ends and is just pumping the ball into him every time he's open. And that defense is still one of the top defense. They've still got one of the best cover corners in Jalen Ramsey, and they still got the freak in Aaron Donald. So they're going to be contenders. But I said there's some other teams like Pittsburgh, man. Ben's best days are well behind him, and they got to run the ball. That line's not suited to kind of grind it out on the ground like they used to. It's going to be – they might not make the playoffs this year. You know, how long? T.J. Watt's already out with a groin injury or day-to-day, whatever it is. They're just they got to take the pressure off Ben. They're going to rely on that defense heavy. And even Cleveland, without Jarvis Landry went out early. They had no receivers, but they still got that two-headed monster in the backfield with Hunt and Chubb. They're going to be tough. Their best defense some games is going to be their offense, going to be grinding the clock out, keeping you off the field. Like, yeah, Lamar Jackson's impressive. He's Superman, but he can't do anything if he can't get on the field. If the Browns are just, we'll go just march it downfield for 8 minutes, 9 minutes. I joked with my cousin, Big Vet 77 on Twitter. He's coaching my nephews and my godson now in Pop Warner. And he started the second half with a 12-minute drive, just marching the ball downfield. And I was like, great job, coach, keeping the offense off the field. He's like, and we kind of joke, but I'm like, there's NFL teams who need to understand that. Your defense is struggling. Grind that clock. Real time, let them get their legs back under them, let them catch their breath. Even if you don't get a score, if you can take 6 or 7 minutes off the clock and let them recover, it's just well-rounded football. It's not all about putting up the most points. Sometimes it's like, all right, let me get my defense refreshed and they can keep the other team off the scoreboard, and then we can figure something out on, the next drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. All right. Right now, basically, we've got about 20 minutes left, so I don't want to miss out on this. As always, you can find us on Spanglish World Sports Den on Instagram and also on Facebook, and SSW Sports Den on Twitter. This is the Sports Den, as always. I'm Scott Churchson. Down there is Mr. Rob Stats. Over there is Mr. J.D. Walker, and over there is Mr. Obi Spencer. Find us on Zingo TV at channel 249 and 250. All right. We are moving on now to the obscure sport. I've been looking forward to this for a while because I found one, in this case. Let's just play the video, and I'll get you caught up.
Is that a cigarette?
No, it's not a
okay.
match.
Oh, fire!
Fire! Yeah.
Fire in the barrel.
Is this Bill's Mafia? Someone's going through a table?
This is
I did not
know enough alcohol.
more staccato than I'd like.
Team sport.
This is the history of what they call tar barrel racing. It goes all the way back to the era of Guy Fawkes. And every November in the UK, what they end up doing is they actually light the barrel on fire and run it through the town. You are allowed to wear a glove, by the way, but kids from, basically people from the ages of 7 and up literally carry this 30-kilogram tar barrel through the town in celebration of Guy Fawkes and, everything that happened with the UK there. We got a little kid there that's picking it up. Everybody's excited. Everybody's fired up about this. And, tar barrel racing. It goes back supposedly to about 1605. So we're looking at over 400 years of history here. I do want to break this down. Like I said, it's more of a celebration, but it is considered a sport by their definition. I try to find something about, basically with fire or electricity or something like that for this week. So we got that one today. Go ahead, Obi.
First, I'd like to agree with Steph that this excites the pyro in me. But before I go rate this in anything else, what makes this a sport? like, is there? You said racing. Are there multiple teams? Like, where does the sport come in so I can make a proper evaluation?
The sport is, by and large, how long can you carry this thing? Because A, it's heavy, and B, yes, it's very, very hot.
So it's like a strongest man competition. It's really
yes.
Flaming tar barrel distant, not race. Gotcha.
It's kind of endurance. It sounds like an endurance competition too, of like how can you stand the heat.
Yeah.
You said kids 7 and up are part of this? You know,
7 up, yeah.
so you have kids carrying around a giant flaming barrel?
Yeah. What happens is the kids are usually done earlier on because as the barrels start to go out, they add more and more tar to it, and the barrels get heavier, so the kid's not going to necessarily be able to carry it. So that's why if you saw the video with the kid, it was daylight, the rest of it was at night, because this thing starts to get ridiculously heavy the more and more tar you end up putting on this to keep the fires going. But yes, 30 barrels in one night, 87 barrel rollers, and about 250,000 pounds are raised for local charities with this thing.
And it's 66 pounds for those of you who were wondering the kilograms to pounds. 30 kilograms is it's just over 66 pounds. Yeah, I was like, that's pretty heavy.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is something, if you're interested, they do actually have hotel spots and things like that available in the UK. It is on November 5th every year, unless it falls on a Sunday, in which case it's pushed over to 6th. But it has been going on, like I said, for now over 400 years as an annual tradition. So, like I said, it's not necessary. It is technically a sport by virtue of the fact that it's an endurance, it's carrying it, and also dealing with whatever first, second, third, or heck, even fourth degree burns you might be able to get out of this. But I want to get your thoughts.
It's definitely dangerous. It's probably one of the more dangerous sports we've covered on this show. Obscure, I would give it a B. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I would definitely not think. I mean, like Steph was saying in the chat, I'm sure I've probably done something similar by accident in my youth, where I used to light bags of dog poop on fire and ring my neighbor's doorbell and run away. So it's kind of similar to that. But yeah, so what do we got? We got oddity, obscurity. Yeah, I mean, I give it a B for oddity and obscurity. I'm a huge Guy Fawkes fan from the movie V for Vendetta, one of my favorite movies. Watchability, I don't really know. It's tough to watch. It's one of those things like you'd watch Jackass, like you're waiting for something bad to happen. You know, like somebody's gonna not realize that their shirt's on fire and just start flailing around. Playability, I'd probably give it a D. It's definitely not something. I've learned to respect fire from my days as a brief time as a firefighter, so I don't really, and even being on set with stunt work, I've learned like to surround myself with professionals when it comes to fire. Like I don't.
Well, they usually have the professional stunt guys for stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't like to be too cavalier with fire these days anymore.
So trained to get burned like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the more interesting things we've covered on here. And actually November 5th is also my cousin Riley's birthday. So
cool.
I'll give it an A for that.
Nice. All right. And also basically we got to remember this one too. Badassery. Do you have
badassery, give it an A. Yeah, it's badassery, give it an A. I mean, it is badass. It's completely bonkers when you think about I'm gonna light up, and you got kids involved. Like that's where it was like JD was saying, like 7-year-old kids, like, oh yeah, but it's just it's just smoldering at that point. Like
smaller fire for the kids to carry around.
What are you trained on early on? Stop, drop, and roll, right? Stop, drop, and roll. You know the routine, you know.
But, Ginger Twist in our chat just had a great thing too. This is like liable to become the next TikTok challenge or something, like flaming barrel TikTok challenge. Like it's totally right up that alley.
So this is going to replace Devious Licks?
Yeah.
Devious Licks, by the way, if you don't know what that is, it's a new TikTok trend, which apparently they're trying to stifle on that side, which involves stealing things from your school and posting a video about what you stole it. Not talking pens and pencils. I'm talking doors. I'm talking possibly refrigerators, sinks, urinals. Justin, maybe, remember Justin? His daughter was telling a story that apparently someone at her school tried to actually swipe a door. Like they got the door off the hinges and tried to get it through security for the Devious Licks challenge. And security's like, wait, time out, no. So This one, yes. The flaming barrel challenge. We've had the milk crate challenge. We could easily have the flaming barrel challenge on TikTok. Hashtag flaming barrel challenge. Let's see if we can get that going.
Okay, before we get in trouble for starting a TikTok, Jen, let me rate the sport. Save us a little bit here. Sorry, I think I just stepped on you, JD. I think you had the same thing in mind. But
I was thinking about how can we combine this with fireball soccer, where you get double points if you kick the fireball soccer ball into the flaming tar barrel.
Can we tie it to Donkey Kong
ball each time you get one in, because no more ball after once it's stuck in the tar. But for my grades here, I would go with I'd give it an A for oddity. For sure. A minus for obscurity, because this seems like a combination of two sports that we've already had on here. I forget the name of the one where basically the entire town just has one giant brawl. From somewhere in the UK. Bah, yeah. So it's a combination of that one and the fireball soccer. I'd say a D for playability. Probably not many people should be carrying around a giant flaming barrel. Many will try, but
many have tried.
When it fails badly. B plus for watchability. Probably more fun to watch in person. But there's definitely the jackass factor that Rob mentions. A plus for badassery.
By the way, to follow up what JD said on Ba, at least if you would never have to worry about losing sight of the barrel the way they lost sight of the ball in Ba.
That's a fair point.
No one's sticking that up their shirt. All right,
you ain't hiding that one.
All right, Obi, you want to roll?
I do. I no wonder I like to go first. I want to talk, but oddity B. Pretty odd, not the craziest thing or oddest thing we've said. Like you've pointed out, a combination of some sports. I think the fire takes it up a little bit. Obscurity A, because anything that happens in one little place at one little festival, that's in and of itself makes it obscure. Playability and enjoyability is a B. I want to try it, and I'm going to get to this in badassery on why I want to try it. So we're going to get through that. Watchability, I don't think it looks fun to watch, just watching people. I don't watch The World's Strongest Man, and this is some sort of derivation of that with fire. Badassery, I'm going to give this a C. And the reason I'm going to give this a C, and I think, Rob, you actually touched on it. Most humans, myself included, do not have the proper respect and fear of fire you should have. I remember people would be like, oh, but the dog was so brave, it ran into the fire and saved the human. But as humans, the first thing they teach us about a burning house is don't go back in because we're stupid and not afraid of fire. So I'm still stupid. So badassery is only a C. My rankings for this one is made into number 2 in festival games behind the always great Calico Storico.
I'm going to top that.
And it did go. I feel this is like a pain for pain's sakes game, and I put it at number 1. It beat out ear pulling and slaps. So that's what I have for that.
So you're telling me that maybe I need to come up with the next one being like some kind of a pain sport.
Yeah, and I do notice that I don't have on this list somewhere. There it is. Knuckle hopping is only in regional Olympics. I don't know why that's not on pains for pain's sake, but that should probably be on that list. But it's not.
A note for that. Pain sport. All right. So rounding this out as myself.
Does this count as festival sport or pain or festival sport, pain sport? Are we overlapping categories?
When a sport falls into multiple categories, I gladly overlap it. Yes. So this is a festival and a pain and the knuckle hopping probably and a fire. We might have to have a fire sport.
Fire category next. I'm gonna try and find something with ice maybe next time. All right.
Sports.
So oddity and obscurity, I give it an A- because frankly I had no idea this existed. I also honestly, in some ways, respect the history of it. The fact that this has been around since the very start of the 17th century, to me, gives it a little bit of cred because it's flown under the radar for literally 400 plus years. So I give it that a little bit higher on that one. Playability, I give it an A. As long as you have an oven mitt that's strong enough to handle it, you can pick it up, pretty much carry it around. I think honestly, it's a lot. Personally, I would probably try it as a watchability, as a playability. Because to me, I think it's the idea of just doing it once just to say you did it. Yeah, that's hot as heck, and you have to really make sure you're wearing like flame retardant clothing. But I'd try it once just for the novelty, and again, TikTok video. Watchability, honestly, not that big. C, maybe C minus. To me, it wasn't really something that I was really enamored by. It was interesting, but I didn't really, have a lot of excitement for it. Badassery, though, I have to give it an A. It takes a lot of guts to be able to pick up a giant flaming object and run with it over the top of your head. For some reason in my head, I keep thinking Donkey Kong with something like this, and I'm dating myself a little bit with that. But I don't know. I think, like I said, as a badassery standpoint, I think it's kind of cool. So cool. Anyway,
trying to do this in a furry gorilla suit you would need to have a lot of flame retardant on. In order for
yes, trying to rescue a blonde woman that's twice your size. Yeah.
By the way, I already tweeted new TikTok US challenge courtesy of SSW Sports Den Flaming Barrel Challenge. Watch this week's obscure sports segment to learn more. Disclaimer, we are not responsible for anyone who is stupid enough to actually try it.
Thank you for that last part on that.
I was like, I'm going to cover my us on this one. And like, we're not responsible if you're dumb enough to try this.
In other news, obscure sport has actually gotten, credibility.
All of a sudden we'll be internet stars. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Any press is good press, as the saying goes, right? So, maybe within reason. All right, so we got about 5 to 7 minutes left at this point. And like I said, you can always find us on Twitter at SSW Sports Den, and on Facebook, and also on Instagram at Spangler Sports World Sports Den. Don't wear the fursuit while playing on fire. Bad idea. Yeah, probably. We got a few minutes left. I want to basically get your ideas, your thoughts. If you have anything you guys wanted to talk about, anything to cover. Also, let me know if you have enough desire for it. Let me know if you think the Yankees are making the playoffs. Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
I think yes. I would say yes only because it's been hold on one sec. They're in that position where they were in a couple weeks ago to run the table real quick and get like a couple of and straight up head-to-head wins against against the Blue Jays, the Mets. They were talking about it today. The Mets going to do them a favor and take 2 from the Red Sox, and they win. They stumbled, but it's the Mets are kind of a hot mess themselves. But it's a couple of years ago, like even in last year, the year before, the Yankees would struggle against like the Red Sox or like the Rays, but then they'd beat everybody else. And this year it's been kind of like a little bit of the flip side where they're struggling against teams they should beat, but then we're like, oh, head to head, yeah, we're going to sweep the Red Sox. We're going to take 3 out of 4 from the Blue Jays, and all of a sudden they make up that ground instantly. So I'm hoping they do. I mean, the Mets are pretty much all but mathematically out of it, but we'll know by the end of this week, because I think if Boston takes 2 and the Yankees don't close any ground by the end of the week on the Blue Jays, then they're not going to make it. But I think they've got a good shot at it.
Is Aaron Boone out of a job if they don't make the playoffs? This is his last year on the contract.
If his contract's up, yeah, maybe they don't rehire. Yeah, you know what? But as they've been saying here in New York, who do you want? You're not going to, all you're going to get is another version of Aaron Boone. Like they want somebody who's into analytics and who's going to follow the patterns. And look at Boston, and they switch it up. They're like, yeah, we don't really do analytics all the time. So you got to find a manager who's different, who can bring something new to the table, because everybody's doing analytics, and you need somebody who's got an X factor. I don't think Buck Showalter's that guy. They've been joking around about Wally Backman. They're like, the Mets should sign him because he fits the protocol. He's got the background that most of their other front office signings have had for the last 2 years.
Like, resume though?
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks?
yeah, he got fired. Yeah, that's what they were making fun of him.
He was fired within a week after he had a DUI and a domestic accusation. Of some sort. Just watched the Once Upon a Time in Queens Mets 80s 30 for 30 documentary. Scott, you're just not dead inside enough for your sports fandom like I am. The closest I get to success is with my professional sports teams that I follow these days, is a documentary about it is a documentary about how a team used to be good 35 years ago, should have won a few World Series, but they blew all their talent up their nose. So really, just Yankees, I think. I mean, unfortunately for me, fortunately for you, probably will overtake Toronto if they do have head-to-head games left. I wouldn't completely count out Oakland just yet, but I think they come up short. It's a mad scramble. It's over for the Mets. Their time to make a move was when they played the Cardinals and the Phillies last week, and they did. So they're done. Keep losing, get a better draft pick, and fire the entire front office and set the building on fire at the end of the season.
A lot of fire in this episode. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Fire was the Pee-wee's Playhouse word of the day today.
So I'm going to move from firing to retiring. J.J. Redick retired. He will be in the Basketball Hall of Fame because, remember, college counts, and what he did at Duke alone would have gotten him in. And, let's just keep track of Carly Lloyd, our Jersey girl, on her way out. What was that? 5 goals against Paraguay, just because she's done playing and she wants to remind everyone she's going out on top. So, yes, that's my shout-outs to two athletes I really enjoyed watching play over their careers.
Yeah, we dropped the ball on the shut up and shout-outs, haven't we? I got to work on that. So, but yeah, the 30 for 30 is still sitting on my DVR.
Yeah, I would, on a post-dated shout-out, I wanted to shout out those fans at the Hard Rock Stadium from the Miami game like 2 weeks ago that caught the cat. When the cat fell from the upper deck, and on 9/11, in the most appropriate way, they caught the cat in American flag, as it fell, and it was all over like Twitter, and the cat's alive. They went full Lion King after they caught it. They were like, Hakuna Matata! I was like, it's dangling.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta watch.
Oh, you gotta see it.
Dangling by a claw. And it falls. They catch it in the American flag, and the guy jumps out, and he's like, "Yes!" And they're like, "It's alive!" And they're like, "Oh my god!" It was like one of the craziest things.
Nice. All right, so we got to wrap this up at this point. We got a couple minutes left. Thank you to gentlemen as always. I appreciate this. Thank you to Rob for being able to figure out a way to actually make this work. And in case you can't tell, he's currently over at NJIT at the moment. So this episode is brought to you by the New Jersey Institute of Technology. We have a nice little product placement there. One more time, you can always find us on Facebook and also on Instagram at Spanglish Sports World Sports Den, and also on Instagram at SSW Sports Den. I will always make it a point to post weird, obscure facts, today in history, things like that. I always try and keep it somewhat interesting. As far as this show, it is available across 35 different platforms, across 4 different continents. Zingo TV is available. It is a division of Fox and Disney. If you tune into my show, Tales from the Film Set, a little bit later, we will probably talk about that, because the last 2 weeks we've managed to figure out a way to bring that into the conversation about how actually we are being broadcast through a Disney organization. So, fun fact there.
I mean, they own everything.
They do. 40% of all media, I believe, right now comes through Disney in some facet or form. So, and we're one of them. But, all right. So, on behalf of... the mouse ears, man. So, on behalf of Mr. Opie Spencer, Mr. Robert Statz, and also Mr. J.D. Walker, my name is Scott Churchson. This has been the Sports Den, avoiding the mistake I made from last week, if you guys remember on that. Thanks as always for tuning in. I appreciate it. Find us one more time on Facebook and Instagram at Spanglish Sports World Sports Den, and also on Twitter at SSW Sports Den. Thanks a lot. You guys are awesome. Have a great day. Take care.